around this country as well. Jimbo Fisher, I don't mind playing 8 or 9 conference games. Brett McMurphy will join us today at 4. I do believe this. We need to play FCS games, a game. I came from that league. Bobby Bowden came from that league. How did those schools make budget without a big payday game versus a Power 5? That's from Jimbo Fisher, who also was asked again about the teams that they would have, the 3 teams that they would play every year. And he goes, I'd love to play Texas. Also, Nick Saban, it's over with. We're done talking about it. There are a lot more pressing needs in college football.
Well, that's kind of 2 different things there. Jimbo's talking about the schedule. Nick's talking about Jimbo Fisher. So that's kind of separate. But, yeah, on Jimbo Fisher's comment, I mean, yeah, we talked about this yesterday that those schools need a payday. I question, like, how much they need that payday to function. Like, if you need that game against A&M for $1 million just to basically operate, then I think that is kind of an alarm of just how much programs or some schools are, basically eking it out to play football. I don't know how good that really is. I'm not, advocating getting rid of less teams. So if they need that, they need that. But I think that's alarming that they would need that little bit of change to just simply function their programs. So you can definitely tell that there are some that make money and a lot that apparently do not. But, yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I agree with him simply on that point. On the other hand, it's Jimbo Fisher, and basically between him and Nick Saban and really almost close to every college football coach in America, I take what they say at face value, and then I know there's some underlying motive to it. And I'm sure with Jimbo Fisher, he sees the schedule they're going to play, and, yeah, I bet he wants a gimme game. I bet he does, and I bet it's not simply because he wants to save Furman football or Wagner or whoever else. It's because, hey, there's a win for us in the midst of playing Alabama and Georgia and Texas and everybody else. So I believe a little bit of both of what I believe a little bit of each side of what he's saying right there.
On the FCS, I would like one of 2 things to happen there, neither of which is likely. One is probably more likely than the other. I would like to see maybe instead of whatever bogus, wonky spring scrimmage you get, you just play a scrimmage against an FCS team, and you can give them a game.
You mean like in August?
Like in May or April.
Oh, a scrimmage. Yeah,
like in the spring.
I remember asking Art Wiles even back in the day. I said, why don't you have a spring game with somebody else? Or even a scrimmage in August against somebody else.
The NFL does it in training camp, and then, so it works for them. I mean, if you're trying to be the NFL. And then the other thing I would suggest is instead of that, then maybe just a preseason game, which could also, look, people are going to go. You're going to make money on it. You can give them the guarantee money, and you get to stay it, and then you don't have to stash it in week 12 and play before the rivalry game. I don't know.
I think the only thing with doing a spring game where you actually play another team, which I do think would probably be valuable. I don't know why we haven't seen that yet outside of just the rules that are in place. But between that and then talking about potentially fall scrimmage, now you can't just do things. Now you have to go, okay, well then what do the players want in return? Or what is that going to create? What problem is that going to cause? Is that going to lead to CBA? Is that going to, and that's the thing with every decision being made is it's now, and that's a good thing, that the athletes are going to have their say in it as well, or there's going to be blowback. So, I think you do need to have, some break in your schedule. That's why I think the idea, that's ridiculous to begin with, but the whole SEC playoff thing, it's, you're just playing the same teams you're already playing. So these FCS games give you a little bit of break in the schedule. It's good for those schools. I think it's ridiculous how it's kind of stashed away late in the SEC schedule. We talked about that yesterday, but yet it's because it's them that we go, oh, well, they need the break. It's just so tough. Whereas if anybody else did, it would be like, wow, that's a really weak thing to have that game late in the year. But, yeah, I think that the 9-game schedule makes the most sense with the rivalries that you have potentially in place. It makes no sense for Texas to only have OU as a guaranteed opponent but not at A&M. It makes no sense for OU to have I guess really Texas is their big deal. But like Paul was pointing out yesterday, you've got teams that have multiple rivalries. So A&M needs to play Texas, but they also probably need to play LSU, and they also probably need to play Oklahoma. So if you feel that way, then I think it's pretty simple. I don't know why there's too much hand-wringing over it. That seems the simplest solution is going to the 9 games, having your 3 stable opponents, what have you. So basically pods in a way. And that just seems like the cleanest way to do it and the way to make everybody happy. But I know that there is, at least some other side of the argument, which is why they are still deciding on what they want to do.
I just sent a text to Colby Carthel, the head coach at my alma mater at Stephen F. Austin, and I asked him how critical I should have done this yesterday evening. It's my fault. But how critical are the games you play against FBS teams on the road? For example, they've played at Baylor. They've played at Texas Tech. They've played at a couple other places. How much of that? Is it 300? Is it 500,000? Is it $1 million? Is it $1.5 million? I don't know that, but I'm going to see if he responds to me. If he doesn't, by a direct message via Twitter, I'll call him in the break and just kind of get feedback from his perspective, because I know otherwise that there are probably some budget shortfalls along the way. Now, one of